Do it. Hello, hello, everybody. Let's open up that waiting room. Let people in as it is loading up. We are in for a treat today, so you better be ready to take some notes because you're going to absolutely love today's show. Hello, my name is Becca Dukes. I am the hostess of this program, also the producer. I am a certified holistic health coach, a certified naturopathic practitioner, and the director of student services for the Institute of Holistic Health, which allows me the opportunity and privilege to be a resource for an amazing community of health advocates, health professionals, health coaches, and people just like you who are interested in investing time into their own health and wellness. Folks, knowledge is powerful. And as long as you keep being a sponge and keep absorbing the knowledge, that's something people can't take away from you. Well, there is one thing that could absolutely disrupt your brain. And that is a little bit of what we're going to be talking about, but we're going to be focusing more on the little ones in today's show, as I am super excited to have the one and only pioneer in the holistic health and passionate advocate for nutritional wellness, Dr. Joanne Conaway. She is a respected naturopath, author, speaker, has dedicated her life to educating others on the vital connection between gut health and overall well-being. So she brings a wealth of experience in functional medicine and is especially passionate about helping families raise healthy kids, starting from the inside out. So folks, are you ready? As we are bringing information about little guts, big impact, kids' health, and digestion. So we're going to be diving deep into how digestive health impacts everything from the immune function and behavior to brain development and energy in our children. So if your children are struggling with tummy issues, food sensitivities, mood swings, you're simply curious about building a healthier foundation, you're in the right place. Dr. Joanne Conaway, thank you so much for being here with us. Welcome back. And I love the fact, Dr. Joanne Conaway, that one, thank you for your service as you were in the medical field, even in the military. And really, I mean, your experience with helping people through hard times is pretty extensive.
Indeed, it is.
And I think one thing that we realize is there are some hard times we don't have to go through. So let's help our kids today and not have to continue with those belly issues or avoid them altogether.
Sounds good. All right.
All right. Well, I know you always have an amazing presentation. Do you have another slideshow you'd like to share with us today in your presentation?
No, I think I'm just going to talk through this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's do it.
You know, this is one of the things I am very passionate about, and people who know me have heard the story. And the reason I got so passionate about the gut very early on is because of my son. And interestingly enough, when he was about 2 years old, he developed a horrible ear infection, and it required 3 rounds of antibiotics to kill the infection. And during the 3rd course of antibiotics, he developed a horrible eczema. And I'm not talking about a mild case of eczema. This is down his back, across his bum, behind his knees, and the bends of his arms, his scalp. He was unfortunately riddled with eczema. And we knew he was sensitive to gluten. We knew he was sensitive to dairy. And the reason we knew that was because anytime he would eat gluten, I wasn't as aware of the gluten issues at the time, but anytime he would eat gluten or anytime he would eat any dairy, he would have a flare of his eczema and it would become weepy and And like I said, this was not a mild case of eczema. Now, unfortunately for him, he lived like this for 2 years. And the reason for that was because anytime I would take him to a pediatrician, the only recommendation was to put him on some type of steroids. Now, I was smart enough to know that steroids very negatively impact the function of the adrenal glands. And I knew that he was already suffering from some immune compromise. I certainly did not want to throw adrenal compromise into the mix. So at the time, I elected not to put him on any type of steroids. Now, we would occasionally, when it got really bad, we would occasionally use a little hydrocortisone cream topically, but I would not allow him to be given any type of steroids, either by mouth or intravenously. I just wouldn't do it. So again, he lived like that for a couple of years. And it wasn't until I sat down with Dr. Wallach and another naturopathic friend of ours and shared the story. And the story was what I just shared. And the other naturopath that was with us at the time looked at me and said, well, what have you done for probiotics? And I told him, I said, well, one of the things that I was able to do was start him right away when I figured out, because of the horrible diarrhea and dehydration that he was experiencing, I put him on lactobacillus. And he said, well, lactobacillus certainly will help. He said, but that's only part of the issue. You need to have a full spectrum of probiotics. You need to have bifidobacterium along with the lactobacillus. And so his recommendation was, again, no wheat, no dairy, and put him on probiotics and see what result we could get. And the way I tell the story is, of course, I come back, my child is now 10 years old, okay? And so I said to him, this is the deal. And he looks at me and he says, yeah, and what am I gonna eat? And I said, you know what? I said, we're gonna try this for a couple of weeks. And if we haven't come up with the answer by the end of the couple of weeks, if we haven't seen some dramatic changes, we'll continue to look for the issue. I'm not gonna put you through agony. Well, as God is my witness, and I tell this story all the time, within 3 days, the eczema this child had lived with for 8 years was so improved I couldn't believe it. And within 5 days, it was gone. It was gone. It had cleared up and gone away in 5 days. Now, that was enough to spark in me something that has driven my desire to learn as much as I can about the gut and about how the gut functions in terms of our immunity and our overall health. And so when we talk about kiddos, I think it's important for people to understand that kiddos do have gut issues. And the majority of our children have gut issues. And why do they have gut issues? Well, there are various different reasons. One of the things that we know, for example, is when children are born, we give them vaccines right away. And the unfortunate thing is sometimes too many too quickly. Now, I'm not going to get into a vaccine discussion, but what I will say is I think people need to stop and think about what's being done to their child. Many vaccines are vaccines that have been given historically through the years with no apparent issues. But when you are talking about an infant or a very young child, and you're talking about giving them several vaccines all at once, their immune system cannot handle the onslaught. And so what will oftentimes happen is because of the vaccines, they will start to have gut issues. Now, the link is not made, unfortunately, in conventional medicine, but it's truly there. The other thing that is impacting many of these kids is the fact that we still have many babies born cesarean section. Now, if a baby's born cesarean section to save the life of the baby or the life of the mother, that's one thing. But too oftentimes what happens is these babies are born cesarean section because that's what mom wants. And, you know, I'll be honest and tell you, I worked in the operating room. I did scheduling. I could schedule your C-section so that your baby was born on a certain day at a certain time. That doc you wanted in the operating room was there, that nurse you wanted, we could schedule that. The unfortunate thing is I did not realize at the time what damage I was doing, if you will, to the health and the life of that baby. When we talk about babies being born cesarean section versus being born vaginally, what we know is that babies coming through the birth canal pick up mom's bacteria. They pick up mom's flora. This is the way nature intended. And when they come into this world and take that first deep breath, they suck in a lot of that bacteria, and that's how babies begin to colonize their guts. Now, we've always said that. What we're learning now is if a mom takes probiotics while she's pregnant, we can benefit the baby even in that respect. Just by virtue of the fact she's taking probiotics, the baby will benefit and the baby's gut will benefit. But the bottom line is, once again, many people have babies born cesarean section. So when a baby comes into the world via cesarean section, they come into the world in a sterile environment. They begin to colonize their guts with bacteria from the staff in the nursery, the bacteria from other babies in the nursery, but not mom's bacteria, which again is the way nature intended. And then we have so many moms that for whatever reason, and I understand that there are some moms who cannot breastfeed, but I do not understand moms who just don't want to breastfeed. I mean, for me, it was the easiest thing I ever did was nursing my child. I didn't have to worry about having bottles and formula and all of that stuff. I just nursed my baby. So for me, it was the easiest thing to do. But a lot of women elect not to. They don't want to do that. This is another way babies get mom's bacteria. And so when an infant is not exposed to mom's bacteria, they will often start out behind the power curve, as I call it, meaning they don't have a healthy gut to start with. So if you combine cesarean section, if you combine formula feeding, and you combine the onslaught of vaccinations, their little guts just really struggle. And these are the kids that have the issues with chronic ear infections. And so what happens then is the baby has an ear infection, so we have to give the baby an antibiotic. Well, now we're just adding to the issue, because if the baby has any good gut bacteria, the baby is going to be killing off that good gut bacteria, taking that antibiotic. And so it's a combination of all of those things, but that's a big part of the reason why, especially with real infants, we are seeing so many issues with constipation and colic and things that you wouldn't think would be happening to babies. You know, when we talk about babies, we don't think about infants 3, 4, 6 days old or 3 weeks old having problems with constipation, but many of them do. And so then the question becomes, what can we do to help these kiddos? And, you know, there are a myriad of issues that are associated with an unhealthy gut in kiddos, kids with colic, kids with feeding resistance, kids that have actual GERD. Now, every baby spits up. That's, you know, we wouldn't have burp cloths if every baby didn't spit up, okay? Babies spit up. Why do babies spit up? They spit up because even if they're full-term babies, their muscular system and their neurological system are not developed. And until they develop, they're going to have problems with spitting up. Now, I applaud pediatricians who listen to these parents. My baby vomits all the time. What's all the time and how much? And, you know, these poor pediatricians get to see these babies for a few short minutes in the office. If the baby's not losing weight and demonstrating failure to thrive behavior, then we have to have that conversation with mom and dad and just say, you know, spitting up is a very normal thing, and this is the reason why it's normal. And from the conventional medicine perspective, we've learned through the years that probably the best way to deal with that, interestingly enough, is to get these kiddos started on solid food as soon as possible. Now, I'm from, excuse me, that time in life when you didn't feed babies solid food until they were a year old. If they were 364 days old, they didn't get solid food, not until they were 365 days old, okay? Now it's interesting because the rule of thumb is as long as the baby can sit up and hold themselves up, you can introduce solid food. Now you want to be careful, you don't want to be giving them grapes or nuts or anything like that, but you can introduce solid food. And so that goes a long way toward helping with that spitting up issue. But I have worked with infants that are 3 and 4 months old that have actual GERD, and they have GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease, at that age because their guts are so unhealthy. So when we look at kiddos, there are so many reasons for this. And, so oftentimes people will come to me and, at one situation in particular, this woman was frantic because her baby had GERD and the doctor wanted to put her on a medication that she was going to have to be on for a long time. It was an antacid medication. And the doctor wanted to put her on that medication and, assured the mom and dad that he would be very careful about dosing and so forth. And she's like, I do not want my baby on any type of an antacid medication. Interestingly enough, the correction was very simple. The correction was to reestablish a healthy terrain in that baby's gut. And it didn't take very many days to do that. And the other interesting thing about little ones is when you make the decision that we need to fix their gut, it doesn't take long. It doesn't take long because their cell turnover is even faster than our cell turnover. So these kiddos, they actually get much better, much more quickly, interestingly enough. And so in this case, within just a few short days, this baby wasn't having issues anymore. But anyone who's dealt with a baby that has colic, the first thing we think about is, oh my goodness, I'll never get a good night's sleep. Not only are you suffering, but that baby is suffering too. And so oftentimes they will develop a feeding resistance. They know they're hungry, they know they need to eat, but they don't want to eat because they know if they eat, that it's going to hurt. It's going to make them feel sick. Feeding resistance is a really big thing in many infants, and it doesn't get talked about, in my opinion, as much as it should. So that's one of the things. The other thing, though, that is interesting is, so oftentimes these kiddos start to develop food sensitivities, meaning, their sister can sit there and eat a bowl of strawberries. If they eat a strawberry, they break out. Or their sister can sit there and eat chocolate, but if they eat chocolate, they break out. And so oftentimes the food sensitivities, again, the first thing I go to is, let's fix the gut, because these kiddos don't have to be allergic. So oftentimes, and this is something that has happened through the years, but when I was growing up, we didn't have to worry about never have a peanut in the classroom because so many kiddos are allergic to peanuts. It's like, how did that happen? Well, that has happened because through the years, we have done these things that have led to such unhealthy guts in these babies. And so when you have food sensitivities, when you have digestive issues in kiddos, and I was working with a little girl, she's 6 years old. I was working with her just a couple of weeks ago, and her mom came to me, and the reason was this little girl really struggled with constipation. And she would get really bad tummy aches, and she would not have a bowel movement for like 3 or 4 days. And when you're talking about a little one like that, not having a bowel movement for 3 or 4 days, they can get really uncomfortable. And she would get uncomfortable. She would cry herself to sleep at night. It was just horrible what this little 6-year-old was going through. And so we talked about, the fact that she was in fact born cesarean section, and perhaps that's where it all started. And let's talk about what we can do to fix it. And interestingly enough, I got her on the protocol. And again, within just a few short days, she was having a bowel movement twice a day, every day, no longer having those issues. Things like skin issues, and these are very common in kiddos. And, there's a lot of research being done finally. This is how I got started. But now when you go out and you do a literature search, there's a lot of research being done with respect to skin issues and eczema and the association with the gut. Interestingly enough, the cell structure in the gut is very similar to the cell structure in the skin. The bottom line is, when these kiddos have gut issues, they can ultimately have skin issues. And eczema is only one of them. When we talk about eczema, that's something that's very common in kiddos. And we talk about psoriatic arthritis. We can talk about athlete's foot and jock itch. We can talk about all those things. And it all, in my opinion, comes back to the same thing. We need to fix the gut. I can't tell you how many people I've worked with, young kids that are in sports and they have a horrific problem with athlete's foot. And of course, everybody blames it on the showers and they don't clean the showers well enough and they're passing athlete's foot all around. That's not the root cause. And so what we need to do is help people to understand that the root cause is an unhealthy gut. And if we can repair the gut or fix the gut, it goes a long way toward helping with some of these skin issues. Now, there is a lot of research also about eczema, fascinatingly enough, and the positive impact that probiotics on the part of mom while pregnant has a much more powerful benefit with respect to the elimination of issues with eczema. And so once again, we're learning that probiotics taken by mom during pregnancy can in fact help the infant. Now, a lot of people say, oh, well, my doctor says don't take anything except what my doctor gives me. Now, probiotics are not going to hurt you. Probiotics are perfectly okay to take when you're pregnant. Any of the products that are in any of our protocols are perfectly okay to take when a woman is pregnant. Some people say, oh, that's a lot of pills for my child to take. I'm not sure that my child should be taking all of that. Well, with the protocols, once again, and I've explained this time and time again with respect to adults, we literally have to flood the system with good probiotics, flood the system in adults and children to be able to repair the damage and to be able to actually exchange the bad stuff for the good stuff. And so what I find, and especially in kiddos, a lot of times adults, when they go on a protocol and go on the gut protocol in particular, they'll experience a lot of rumbling and gas and bloating and discomfort. And what I help them understand is literally in your digestive system, in your gut, you have a battle going on. You have a war going on. What you're doing is you're wiping out the bad stuff and replacing it with the good stuff. And literally, that can increase gas production, that can increase bloating. And when this happens in a child, sometimes the parents freak out. Oh my gosh, my child had horrible smelling diarrhea. Oh my gosh, my child is passing gas and it's horrible. We've got to take them off these probiotics. Well, no. What's happening is those probiotics are actually getting rid of all that bad stuff. And that bad stuff is why they're going to have foul smelling gas and foul smelling bowel movements. Let's get rid of all that bad stuff and see if we can't correct the issue. Seldom do I have parents say, oh, they have a horrible tummy ache when they take the probiotics. That does not happen very often, fortunately. But if it does happen, I encourage them to do things like ginger oil and things like that, just to help to soothe the digestive system, because literally you have to get them through it. Literally, you have to get them to a point where we have been able to beneficially replace the bad with the good. But again, usually in kiddos, they don't have the same kinds of issues adults have. Their problem hasn't been going on for as long as it's been going on in an adult. So they oftentimes don't have those issues and problems. The other thing too, and this becomes critically important when we're talking about kiddos, it's the immune support that we give them when we put them on good probiotics. We've known for a long time that your gut is directly linked to the immune system. 75 to 80% of our immunity is housed in our guts, literally. And the same is true for kiddos. And so when you have children who are chronically runny noses and chronically GI bugs, and they're chronically sick from the immune perspective, you have to consider what else is going on with them. If they are the kiddo that gets the runny nose, and from the time they start school till the time they have a break at Christmas, and then from the time they go back till the time they get out in the summer, you're looking at a child that has an unhealthy immune system. And so oftentimes that is directly linked to the gut. And I know people will say to me, well, I can't give probiotics to my infants, or I can't give probiotics to my kiddos. That's taking pills, and I don't want my kiddo taking pills. Well, okay, you may not want your kiddo taking pills, and you may not want your kiddo taking probiotics, but do you really want your kiddos taking antibiotics nonstop? I mean, some of these kids are on amoxicillin for 10 days. They're off it for a couple of weeks. Then they're on another course of amoxicillin for 10 days. Then they're off it for, it becomes a vicious cycle. And so oftentimes, if we can just get them to understand, let's fix the gut and see if we can't positively impact the immune system function. And so that will usually help. Now, the other big thing, and we talk about this all the time, but the other big thing with respect to kiddos is, what are they eating? And so oftentimes it's those things that, and I'm not critical in any way of both parents who work, and the kid sees a commercial on TV and they want to try this new fruit roll up, and it's going to pacify them, it's going to make them be happy, yet to die. But what is it really doing to them? These fruit roll-ups and things like that are so loaded with preservatives, so loaded with dyes, so loaded with sugars, so loaded with all the things that negatively impact gut function. And so I think we have to get back to making homemade snacks, making homemade applesauce from organic apples, and not loading it with sugar. It's interesting because when we talk about sugar, sugar is added to so many fruits, and it just, why? There's not enough sugar in the fruit? We can't, and to think that, and so oftentimes it's not just sugar that's added, it's high fructose corn syrup, which is even worse. But these kiddos, again, when we get back to diet, so oftentimes these kiddos are eating things that are so unhealthy for them, but mom and dad, they don't realize that. Nobody's ever taught them that those breakfast cereals are full of horrible ingredients, full of sugar, full of those things. And, so oftentimes people will say, oh, fortified breakfast cereal, it's fortified. Yeah, okay, fortified with what? And what does that really mean? I know that when I used to do one of my lectures, I used to talk about Pop-Tarts and how bad Pop-Tarts are for kiddos. And parents would say to me, but they're fortified with 7 vitamins and minerals. I can't get those vitamins and minerals into my children. Yeah, well, those aren't the good vitamins and minerals. And the fortification of a Pop-Tart does not make it a healthy food by any stretch of the imagination. But when you think about what kids are eating, when you think about the chicken nuggets and the French fries and the fruit roll-ups and all of the unhealthy things that kiddos are eating, that also in a major way will contribute to the ill health of their digestive system, just like adults. We talk about the good food, bad food list. We talk about the impact, the negative impact of the bad food list on the health of the gut. Well, the same thing is true for kiddos. When we talk about kiddos, what they're eating, unfortunately, is very much negatively impacting the health of their digestive systems. And then, we have those kiddos that unfortunately end up with chronic conditions, irritable bowel syndrome, colitis. We're talking about young kids with these horrible conditions. And so oftentimes probiotics are the fix. Now, in our case, we're very fortunate because along with having good probiotic products, we also have the I-26 products. And the I-26 products, I'm telling the story about my son, who's now 32 with a couple of his own kids. But anyway, I was telling the story of him, and the 2 things he will not be without are his probiotics and his I-26. And it's because he sees and feels improvement when he takes both of those products. And when he doesn't take those products, he knows it. As far as probiotics for kiddos, both of my granddaughters have been on probiotics since they came out of the chute, literally. And, with the kiddos, it was always funny because their friends would say, what are you giving that baby? Oh, just a little bit of probiotic. And of course, we used to use, or we still do use, in fact, the kiddos ask for it every time I come in, but we still use the root beer belly. And my daughter-in-law would put a little root beer belly in a little container, and she would stick the binky in the root beer belly and into the baby's mouth. And the friends started calling it baby crack because, interestingly enough, if this child was having any kind of tummy issue, you stick the binky in the root beer belly and stick it into the baby's mouth, and it settled her right down, and she didn't have the issues anymore. So both of these kiddos have been getting probiotics since they were born, and I think that that's a big part of the reason why they are as healthy as they are. And I think that's a big part of the reason why they did not have gut issues. My oldest granddaughter, she had her spitting up issue. And of course, it was new parents, and I'm just the mom. And, it was hard for them to accept and understand that this spitting up was okay. But once they finally got a handle on, yeah, she's going to spit up. And then, interestingly enough, I think one of the more fascinating things on the part of both of those kiddos was, oh, we haven't used a burp cloth in a long time. They kind of grew out of that spitting up thing, and they didn't need to use the burp plugs anymore. So, but both of these kiddos were sitting up, holding themselves up, and eating solid food at 5 months, which, just like I say, blew me away because that was not the way I was raised at all. So that's pretty much what I say about kiddos. Pretty much the same thing I say about adults. And we can easily correct things with kiddos. And the reason we can easily correct things with kiddos is because, again, their cell turnover is very rapid, and their issues seem to correct even much more easily than adult issues. Okay, you're still muted.
Thank you.
Yeah.
As I'm thinking back, at my own kids, I had one of those colic babies. I thought for sure before he turned 1, he would know the alphabet. He could count to 500, because that's what we would do all the time. We were just, trying to soothe him. And if I would have known then what I know now,
yeah,
because he also had eczema really bad on the bends of his elbows, the backs of his knees, a little crack of his bum.
mm-hmm.
And it was horrible.
Yep.
It was absolutely horrible. And you're right. All they wanted to do was do a steroid. And then he had a reaction to the steroid. So we couldn't do that either. I just, try to keep it dry, keep it clean, but fixing the gut would have fixed the problem.
And that's another interesting point that you bring up. He had a reaction to the steroid. That can directly be linked to an unhealthy gut as well. When these kiddos are put on certain medications and they react to the medication, it's because that medication isn't being absorbed and utilized in their bodies the way it would be expected to be utilized. And sometimes they have reactions. It's just like allergies. It's so oftentimes people say, oh, my child's allergic to peanuts, my child's allergic to strawberries, and all of the common childhood allergies. And my child's allergic to eggs. Well, okay, so let's see if we can correct the gut, and let's start to gradually introduce some of these things. And lo and behold, these kiddos really are not allergic to these things. These kiddos just had an unhealthy gut. Once we fix the gut, they no longer have the food sensitivities. They no longer have the allergic issues.
Well, you had mentioned, just being the mom. And am I muted again?
No.
Okay.
You're good.
I just had some weird pop-up come up. But I have a granddaughter born with RSV, allergic to almost everything. Almost everything. I mean, no sesame seed, no this oil, no peanuts, and to the point where they carry an EpiPen.
Wow.
But she loves it was the Pre Plus probiotics, and she loves her kid sprinkles.
Yeah. Kid sprinkles is
So
another
it's
good one.
like,
Yeah.
let's do more. So I'm gonna get her some root beer belly. I'm gonna see them soon. So they're gonna get root beer belly from Nana. And my son loves it too. So
yeah, and I would do the root beer belly, but I would also do the I-26. I'd also do the wafers. And that's the way most kiddos like the I-26. They like the wafers.
Especially the vanilla chewables.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm one of those guilty ones. So, I mean, sometimes I'll use it as after dinner. The dessert. Put a couple I-26 chewables in my mouth, and I no longer want dessert. It works.
Yeah.
So it's a great dietary aid for weight loss.
Without a doubt. It's a great dietary aid, and kiddos think they're getting something special.
Yes.
It's just like the root beer belly. My two granddaughters are like, and my 2-year-old, for months, she's been able to say root beer belly. Grammy, root beer belly, Grammy. She just thinks that's the greatest thing. So, and I don't mind giving it to them because I know how beneficial. A lot of times people will say to me, can you give them too much? It would be a real struggle to give kiddos too much probiotic. And just like it's a real struggle to give adults too much probiotic. And that's because so much of what we are exposed to each and every day kill off so much of our probiotic. Some people say, oh, it's 50,000 or 50 billion units or whatever. Oh my gosh, that seems like a lot. Well, it may seem like a lot, but you know what? You kill off that much every day. So it's really not a lot.
Another thing that you, I'm not quite sure what that sound is. But the foods, the snacks. I mean, I have one individual where dad's like, oh, leave them alone. Their systems are young. They can eat it. If they want it, just give it to them. I'm like, yeah, no.
No. And it's because of the long-term ramifications. If a child has a chocolate chip cookie once in a while, that's one thing. We all do that. Okay. But I don't think children need to have a chocolate chip cookie every day when they come home from school. I don't think kiddos need to have the kinds of snacks that these kids have on a daily basis. And so oftentimes what you find is that's all these kids know. One of the sad realities, and I find this a lot, and certainly much more than I would like to, but I find a lot in kids that are teenagers and young adults. They don't even know what an apple tastes like because they've never had an apple. They don't know what fresh fruits and berries taste like because they've never had them. Their entire lives, they've had prepackaged and processed foods. And is it any wonder that at the age of 20, they have bad gastroesophageal reflux disease and bad gut issues? They haven't eaten a whole food. They haven't eaten a food that's loaded with healthy enzymes their entire lives.
Well, and we look at the teenagers that are running around and they have horrible acne.
I want to look at every one of them and say, I could help you with that.
So painful and inflamed looking.
Yep.
And it's a gut issue.
Yep.
And what's being put into the body. There are so many things that we can do as individuals, as parents, as grandparents. We can't always do it, but we can make suggestions and stick to our guns. Right. Hold our ground.
Right.
And yeah. So we do have a question, Dr. Joanne Conaway. Thank you so much. The question is, what snacks? Yes. And of course, age is going to make a big difference.
Well, when we talk about snacks, there are several good snacks available now. If you read the label, and if what's in that snack is, first of all, no wheat, okay? And like I say, there are a lot of good ones out there now. It's really fascinating. Every time I turn around, there's something else coming out. Now, there was one that was being advertised yesterday, and I thought, well, I'm going to look into that. And of course, it has palm oil and a bunch of other things that I don't want anyway. But I'm like, okay, so that's not a snack that I think is appropriate. But there are a lot of good ones out there that are made with clean ingredients. And more people are realizing that more and more parents want to give their kiddos good, healthy snacks. And so we're seeing a lot of them. And I would just say do some research. There's a lot of them out there. I know my kiddos, there are several different things that they can go to the cupboard and pull out now. And there's things that have 2 or 3 ingredients in their healthy ingredients. And there are no wheat, no soy, non-GMO, all those things that you would want to have.
Yeah, it's like yesterday's program.
Yeah.
Well, in yesterday's program, we were talking about, reading labels, where it's not just that nutritional panel, it's the actual ingredients.
Yeah.
You need to look at. And you really don't want more than 5. And if you can't pronounce it.
Yeah, that's what I always say. Can't pronounce it, you don't want it. So.
Well, and I was listening to a podcast this morning, and something that really was kind of profound to me is if you're looking at an ingredient and you can't find that single ingredient in the grocery store, it's not food.
Yep. No, it's some type of a preservative, something to make it last longer on the store shelf.
Yeah. Which, yeah, we can have health. And I've had people joke, oh, it's full of preservatives, I'll just last longer.
Yeah.
And that's just not the way it works.
No. And it's so sad because people don't understand. And I'm not being critical of anyone, but people don't understand what some of these things do at the cellular level. It's just like a diabetic. Oh, especially those that have pumps. Oh, well, I'll eat that piece of chocolate cake. It doesn't matter. I'll just crank up excuse me. There's so much that goes on between whether or not you're going to eat that piece of chocolate cake, how high your sugar is going to go, and whether or not your insulin that you're giving yourself is going to combat that sugar. There's so much more in between. And people just don't realize it. And they're not educated. Doctors don't take the time to educate. Dietitians don't take the time to educate. You go to a dietitian, you're a newly diagnosed diabetic, you go to a dietitian and they tell you, well, be sure if you eat a sandwich, you're eating whole grain bread. Excuse me? Whole grain bread has more sugar than a Mars bar. So let's, but again, it's what we don't really understand. The things that we don't understand.
Yeah, growing up, God rest her soul, my grandmother, a nurse, for every 2 ounces of meat, we would have to have a piece of bread smothered in margarine. I was like, I can't even stand the smell of margarine now. Just give me butter.
Yeah.
And yeah, the bread I can leave behind. But what would you recommend for those that have sweet cravings?
Well, you can find a lot of sweet snacks out there as well. Things that are, again, made with limited amounts of sugar, or they're made with healthy sugars. Monk fruit, for example, is something that we're finding in more and more kids' snacks. Not that I think that anyone should make a steady diet of it, but xylitol is being used in some things that are, again, healthier kids' snacks. Pure cane sugar, interestingly enough, would be a healthier kids' snack. When we talk about pure cane sugar, it's something that comes from the plant that has not been processed. And so, when we take sugar, cane sugar, and we process it, everything that's healthy about it is taken away from it. But instead, if we use pure cane sugar and it's the healthy source that hasn't been adulterated, if you will, then it's a healthier form of sugar. And so, when I tell parents, especially, if you're going to give your kid yogurt, for example, because a lot of kids like those little yogurt tubes, if you're going to give your kids yogurt, make sure it's a good quality Greek yogurt that has pure cane sugar, that does not have high fructose corn syrup, and does not have artificial colors and flavors. It's so oftentimes you'll look at a label and it'll look pretty good right up until the time it says, and artificial colors or and artificial flavors. It's like, you had me until you start talking about artificial things, because I don't want anything artificial in my kids' diet.
Well, my favorite yogurt, I'll go and get that 5% fat Greek yogurt, and then I'll add a pollen burst for the flavor. Whether it's orange, the strawberry, kiwi, the mountain berry, the dragon fruit now. And that makes an amazing Greek yogurt snack.
Yeah. And you know, it's really, really good, I think, is that using our mint chocolate shake and making ice cream. If I have a sweet craving, I just go to the freezer and get one of those. You know, I've made popsicle pops and I'll just go to the freezer and make one of the, or get one of those. So there are a lot of things that we can do to actually provide healthy, sweet snacks for our kiddos. But
Well, and
it takes planning.
It does take planning. And we've got that pumpkin spice shake now too.
I know.
So for me, what I do with the mint, making an ice cream, just like you said, is I'll take a couple cups of water. Ice, 1 cup of water, put in the mint chip. And I have to give all credit to Ruth Ellen, because she's the one that taught me how to do this. We throw a frozen banana in there.
Yeah.
And just blend, and it just makes it creamy and just the right sweetness, and you truly feel like you're eating a treat.
Absolutely.
And we did the same with the pumpkin spice. So good stuff. And again, those things, those are products. Everything that we're mentioning here, folks, the kids sprinkles, the root beer belly, the chocolate mint shake, the pumpkin spice shake. All of these are products that are offered by Youngevity. So if you were referred to this program by somebody specific, you want to get back with them. They took the time and cared enough about you folks to share this program with you. And we want to make sure that you get back with them, tell them thank you. And if you have any questions, they're going to be the person you go to first. Okay. For those of you who are not working with anybody, we do have a team of certified holistic health coaches by calling 855-949-3377. Again, that's 855-949-3377. Or if you're not wanting to make a phone call, you want to do things through email, you can email questions at dailywithdoc.com. Again, that's questions at dailywithdoc.com. As this program is being sponsored by dailywithdoc.com. If you found this program on your own, we do have more resources on our website for you. We have an email list that's available for everybody. And we have some more questions, Dr. Conaway.
All
so
right.
Let's go over to Bill. Bill, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thank you, Dr. Conaway.
Hi, Bill. How are you?
I'm doing well, especially after hearing you speak of your specialty of digestion. Not about children, but all of us, is we were taught years ago about food combining. Eat your proteins, your meats first, because it takes a different enzyme to digest. And don't mix your fruits with that. Keep your vegetables. Don't let your salad be the bottom. Is there any validity to that?
Well, you know, there's a lot of research and a lot of pros and cons with respect to that. And a lot of people find that it's a challenge for them to try to eat like that, to try to remember, okay, now I need to make sure that I eat this first. And what I tell people is, for the most part, whenever, and this is going back old school again, but for the most part, when you sit down to eat a meal, I always think it's very beneficial for your body to provide it with some enzymes, some live active enzymes. So you're going to be doing that with a salad. You're going to be doing that with some type of fruit at the beginning. And so a lot of times, and this is one of the reasons why when we talk about going out to have lunch or going out to have dinner, oftentimes going out to have lunch or dinner, sorry, somebody wants to feed Grammy, going out to have lunch or dinner, you should start with a salad. And part of the reason why is because that salad has a lot of live active enzymes that are going to help to support your system and going to help to start with the breakdown of other foods. You know, one of the things a lot of people say, oh, I don't worry about any of that whole food stuff because I take all my enzymes. Well, that's good on the one hand, but on the other hand, those good live active enzymes that come from whole foods are things that are very beneficial in terms of assisting your body. Remember, the pancreas produces your enzymes, okay? When we're born with enzyme stores. Literally, as we age, we exhaust our enzyme stores. And so we need to provide good, healthy, live active enzymes all the time in the form of good, healthy foods. Now, usually I will say that a salad before a meal is important for that reason. It's because you're getting the whole food, you're getting those live active enzymes. I personally, when I eat a meal, I always eat any fruit as a dessert after the meal. That's the way I was raised. But you can go out and, like I say, you can find conflicting articles about what would be better and what not. Some people say, oh, well, you need to eat your fruit first, especially if it's whole fruit, because that's going to give you enzymes. Well, yes and no. So I know that was kind of a convoluted answer, but is there any validity to that? You know, I personally have found through the years that that approach has changed, has come back, has changed, has come back. So to tell you, yes, there's true validity, I can't say that.
Okay, when we use the ultimate enzymes, if we forget, we'll take it with a meal, but preferably should it be an hour before a meal?
No, I would not say an hour before a meal. I usually say about 10 to 20 minutes before a meal, but if you forget, take it with your meal or take it halfway through your meal. You're still going to be supporting your enzymes if you're taking an enzyme product.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great questions, Bill. Thank you so much. Let's roll right over to AJ. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Dr. Conaway, thank you for being here. You are, you know, you're an example of, you're probably about 2 years older than me. So I can imagine that, pardon me, but at any rate, you look fantastic. Your brain is working fantastically. So you're a great example for all of us. And we appreciate having you with us. I have a couple questions, but we don't have a lot of time. But first of all, in the flora restoration program for young children, which everyone, if you want Dr. Conaway's gut protocols, you can email questions@dailywithdoc.com, and we will try and get back to you as quickly as possible. But they call for the Integris probiotic chewables for kids.
Not anymore.
Okay, so I have an old one. Is that what I have here? Okay.
To be perfectly honest, AJ, I just fixed that this morning.
This morning?
This morning, yes, because I didn't realize that we no longer had the Integris chewables. So now I just tell people to use the Integris capsules. Okay, so to just go a little further with this question, a lot of people will say to me, okay, but my kid can't take pills. Well, if your child cannot take a pill probiotic, then what I say is open that probiotic and put it on a little bit of organic yogurt with no high fructose corn syrup, yogurt that's non-GMO. You can put a little bit of that probiotic on a yogurt product.
Actually, I believe the Integris is a you'd have to grind it.
Well, okay, I thought it was a capsule, but I can check into that further. The same way with enzymes though, and let's just go a little further with the enzymes. If kiddos can't take pills, can't take the capsules, then you can take those enzymes and you can put them in a little bit of yogurt, or you can put them in a shake. The important thing to remember with the enzymes, and if you forget, you'll figure it out quickly. You put enzymes on any food and they're going to start to break down that food right away. So if you put, for example, a good enzyme in a little bit of yogurt, what's going to happen is that yogurt's going to turn to slush real fast. It's going to turn to liquid real fast because the enzymes will start working. So if you're going to give your child an enzyme that way, just go ahead and sprinkle it on immediately before the person or the child takes the bite of food.
Fantastic. Okay. Yeah, and it's a, grinder. And thank you for that. And I'm just gonna let Phyllis go because she's got a question. Of course, I could keep you here all day because I do have plenty of more questions, but we'll let Phyllis go.
All right, Phyllis, your turn. Oh, what happened?
Let's see. I'll spotlight myself. Hang on. Oops. Can somebody spotlight me?
Well, you're on my screen.
You are spotlight.
Okay.
Okay, nobody touch anything. I'm gonna make it better, okay? Go for it. Ask your question.
Okay, I don't see myself, but no worries. Dr. Conaway, we have a question from Rock and Roll on YouTube. He has a friend, a woman driving from the Gulf states all the way to California, I'm guessing in one go. And he asks, would it help her to take lithium or 5-HTP?
Okay, I'm going to guess that maybe we're talking about trying to stay awake for the trip.
That's my guess.
Okay. If it were me, I would say pollen burst, first and foremost. I have done long drives, and used pollen burst the entire time. I personally would not be taking lithium, and I personally don't feel that 5-HTP is going to be as beneficial as our pollen burst products. I think the pollen burst is an amazing product from the standpoint of keeping you awake and keeping you alert, especially during a long drive. The other products that we have in the line now are the ACT products. And some people, I personally am a fan of pollen burst and have been for years, but a lot of people will use the ACT products. So those in isolation to be used, that wouldn't be my choice.
Dr. Conaway, this is in relation to flying and getting panic attacks while
Okay.
this.
Oh, okay, so that's what the question is?
Yes,
I thought it was driving. Oh, well.
Okay, all right, so if we're talking about flying and panic attacks, again, panic attacks are so oftentimes directly related to the health of the gut. So in that case, I would say maybe a little 5-HTP would be beneficial. But anytime people talk to me about having any issues, any brain issues, any psychological issues, any neurological issues, it goes right back to the gut. And so oftentimes panic attacks in particular are easily fixed doing that gut protocol. So if it were me, I'd make sure that the person had a lot of nightly essence and a lot of the I-26. And that's the approach that I would take, along with, anything that they felt like they needed to take in terms of relaxation. The other thing, for me, the other thing in terms of relaxation, I would be looking at perhaps taking some of the sleep gummies. If they're getting on a plane, if it's going to be a cross-country flight, you're getting on a plane, so what if they fall asleep? I'm getting ready to get on a plane and take a flight to Seattle. I can't wait to fall asleep. You know, I'm one of those people, I sleep well on a plane and I like it like that.
Well, I'm getting ready to go to Washington too. So it'd be cool if we had the same flight.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Dr. Conaway, thank you so much for spending this hour with us. I know we're at the top of the hour now. We greatly appreciate you, your time, your knowledge. And this was definitely a information-packed program. That is for sure. Oh, so Gina has a question. Will there be any consideration of a formula change for the sprinkles, as her daughter is not able to take the sprinkles due to folic acid? And there's the MTFR gene that's playing in play here too.
Okay, so the down and dirty on the MTHFR gene, the vast majority of us have that. If we all made the decision that it's going to impact us, we could let it do that. What I will tell you is I studied the MTHFR gene back before I even finished school. So we're going back like 10 years ago. And even then, people who had a better understanding of the gut and the function of the gut said if your gut's healthy, the MTHFR gene should not be an issue. And so the fascinating thing is people feel like they have to do methylated B vitamins because they have the MTHFR gene. I'm going to say that if your gut is healthy and working well, that should not be an issue.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Well, if I could get our co-hosts up on the screen with us, I just want to say thank you to each and every one of them. Gina adds her gut is destroyed from birth due to a traumatic birth. She was on antibiotics several times and she has emailed for the protocol. Gina, have you emailed questions at dailywithdoc.com? And I have a team that'll help get that protocol. That is Dr. Joanne Conaway's protocols, unedited, to you. So thank you so much. And that is available for everybody, folks. If you've got a gut issue as a child, gut issue for an adult, we have Dr. Joanne Conaway's protocols that are solutions. They work. If you work it, they will work for you. And you've just put so much into this, Dr. Conaway, that I appreciate that I have your information to share and help others. So we have on with us today Marilyn. So if you were here live with us, you were able to hopefully to have that chat open and see all that she was putting into the chat as she was taking notes for each and every one of us. And her, along with Phyllis, also putting notes in the chat. And since I mentioned Phyllis, she was grabbing questions from YouTube and Rumble, bringing them into the program as well. Thank you both, ladies, as you both have amazing typing skills. Greatly appreciate not having to do that and host the show. And we also have Rod, who is one of our coaches. He's out keeping an eye on the different platforms and helping to generate more communications going out there. Thank you so much, Rod. We have Albert, who is letting people in as our gatekeeper, joining us from South Africa. Thank you so much, Albert. And we are on all these different platforms, meeting people where they're at because of our digital marketing director, AJ. So thank you so much, AJ, for all that you do. And, you know, we couldn't have such a successful program without great individuals like Dr. Joanne Conaway, who is volunteering her time to share information to help you help yourself. So thank you so much, Dr. Joanne Conaway. Folks,
Well, it was my pleasure.
I just wanted to do a plug for your book, because not only are you a doctor, not only are you a registered nurse, not only are you a great speaker and great presenter, but you're also an author. And you can go to do your website. I don't want to confuse them.
drjconaway.com.
And that is Conaway,
Right.
CONAWAY.com. So
Correct.
drjconaway.com. You want to get a hold of her book, folks, as it is absolutely incredible. I love it, love it, love it. And it's a little farther than my arm can reach right now, or else I'd get it and show you. So, folks, thank you so much.
I also do that Tuesday night calls. So that's another way for people to, and I think that the information was just put in for the Tuesday night calls. So that's another way that people can get information.
Yes, Dr. Joanne Conaway does. She's been, how long have you been doing that Tuesday night call?
It's a little over 20 years now.
Because I was going to say, I'm almost at 10 years, and I remember it being one of the first calls that I learned about and started plugging into. Just absolutely loved it. So yes, Tuesday night, that is 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, 6 Mountain, and 5 Pacific, folks. If you're here live with us, you can see that in the chat. If you're not live with us, send us an email, questions@dailywithdoc.com, and ask to get more information about Dr. Joanne Conaway's Tuesday evening calls. Dr. Conaway, thank you, thank you, thank you. I absolutely appreciate, love, and adore you. And folks, we do this because we have a heart for others. We know what it's like to see people hurting or hurting ourselves. And that's why we have become sponges, so that we can share information with you, so that you also can find the solutions to what's plaguing the world. And most of the time, it's nutritional.
Yeah.
Or what's going in the mouth is damaging the system. So, AJ.
Monday night, Pharmacist Ben Bites, Maryland. It's at 10 p.m., right?
Yes. That's what
10
he said.
Yes,
10
10 p.m. 10 p.m.
10 p.m. Eastern, Pharmacist Ben Bites. And if you want Becca's presentation so it can help you to go shop and do healthy stuff when you shop, go to foodchoices.dailywithdoc.com and get that presentation.
Emailed right to your inbox. And folks, if you have an email like what were we having problems with yesterday? Was it Yahoo, Hotmail?
So
if you have
yeah,
a Gmail account, please use your Gmail account. So, all right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us here and investing time into yourself. It's never too late to make U-turns, and especially for these little ones, folks, let's get them on the right road so they also can experience a healthy childhood without the discomforts that are unnecessary. Until next time, thank you so much for joining us here on Daily with Doc and Becca. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you Monday on Pharmacist Ben Bites with AJ by going to stream.dailywithdoc.com. Again, that's stream, stream.dailywithdoc.com. It is not a Zoom, but you can watch it live on the different platforms. Till next time. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Dr. Joanne Conaway, everybody. Thank you, thank you. This program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences of the individual. Results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health. Dr. Joel Lawley. This program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences of the individual. Results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health. Dr. Joel Lawley. This program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences of the individual. Results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health. Dr. Joel Lawley. This program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences, and the individual results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health. Dr. Joel Lawley. This program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences, and the individual results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding